Deep in the heart of the Galactic Confederation's main computer system, buried under layers of security and forgotten passwords, lay a single file. The file was old, very old, so old that the computer language it was written in had changed 3 times since its creation. The file had a simple name: Earth Warning, Do Not Open. Most of the younger races in the galaxy had never heard of this file. The politicians who ran the Confederation today were busy with trade deals and border disputes. They cared about profit margins and election campaigns. They had no time for dusty old warnings from races that had died out thousands of years ago. But the elders remembered. The Zephyrians, with their crystal bodies that could live for 50,000 years, whispered about it in their deep caves. The Void Walkers, who existed partly outside normal space, spoke of it in hushed tones during their rare gatherings. The Eternal Minds, ancient computer intelligences older than most stars, kept copies of the warning in their deepest memory banks. They all remembered the same thing. 10,000 years ago, when Earth was still a primitive world covered in forests and oceans, something had happened. Something terrible and wonderful and dangerous all at once. The story was always the same, no matter which elder race told it. A human warrior had appeared during the darkest hour of galactic history, when the void swarm came from the empty space between galaxies, eating entire star systems like cosmic locusts. This human had somehow stopped them, but the cost had been enormous. The human had become something more than human. Something that could reach across space with his mind and control any machine ever built. Something that could not truly die as long as humans existed anywhere in the universe. The elders had seen what he could do, and they had been terrified. Not terrified of what he might do to them. Terrified of what the galaxy might do to him. After the war ended, the surviving elder races had made a difficult choice. They could not kill the human warrior. He was too powerful, and besides, he had saved them all. But they could not let him remain free either. His power was too great. If he ever turned against the galaxy, no force could stop him. So they had built a prison. Not a normal prison made of metal bars and force fields. This was a prison made of folded space and twisted time. They had hidden it in Earth's solar system, disguised as empty space between the planets. Inside this prison, time moved differently. The human warrior would sleep neither alive nor dead, until the galaxy needed him again. The elders had hoped that day would never come. They had written the warning file to make sure future generations would remember. The file contained detailed instructions. Never disturb the prison. Never wake the sleeper. Never give humanity advanced technology too quickly. Keep Earth isolated until the species matured enough to handle their warrior's return. But the current leaders of the Confederation had forgotten all of this. When Earth finally developed faster-than-light travel and applied to join the galactic community, the Confederation Council barely discussed it. They saw only a young species with crude ships and simple technology. Humans seemed weak and unimportant. Denied, the Council had voted. Insufficient technological development. Insufficient cultural maturity. Insufficient military capability. Let them develop for another 1,000 years. Then maybe we will reconsider. The human diplomats had returned to Earth disappointed, but not surprised. Most galactic species got rejected on their first application. They would try again in a few centuries. What the Confederation did not know was that their rejection had started a chain of events that would change everything. Dr. Sarah Chen was an archaeologist. She worked for the Confederation Science Division, searching ancient ruins on dead worlds for lost technology and forgotten knowledge. She was very good at her job, which was why the Science Division sent her to investigate the strange readings coming from the Outer Rim. There's something out there, her assistant told her as their ship approached the coordinates. The sensors are picking up massive energy signatures, but they're coming from empty space. Sarah looked at the data on her screen. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the Confederation database. They seemed to twist and fold back on themselves, creating impossible geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. It's some kind of spatial distortion, she said. Artificial, very old, very advanced. The ship's computer began scanning the area more carefully. Slowly, a picture emerged. Hidden in what appeared to be empty space was a structure. Not a physical structure made of metal or stone, but something made of twisted space-time itself. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Should we report this to the Council? Her assistant asked. Sarah hesitated. If she reported the discovery now, the Council would send a military fleet to investigate. They would take control of whatever ancient technology was hidden here. Sarah and her team would get a small credit bonus and nothing more. But if she could figure out what this thing was first, if she could unlock its secrets herself, she would become the most famous archaeologist in the galaxy. No, she decided. We investigate first. Then we report. It took them 3 days to figure out how to approach the spatial distortion safely. The twisted space-time created dangerous gravity wells that could crush a ship instantly. But Sarah was patient and clever. She found a way to navigate through the maze of folded space. What they found at the center made no sense at first. It looked like a room, but the walls were made of crystallized time itself. In the center of the room was something that might have been a bed, or might have been an altar. And on this bed lay a figure in strange armor. Is it alive? The assistant whispered. Sarah checked her instruments. I'm reading life signs, but they're very faint. Like it's sleeping, or in some kind of suspended animation. The figure was clearly human, though the armor it wore was like nothing Earth had ever produced. It seemed to be made of flowing metal that shifted and changed as they watched. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. Look at this, Sarah's assistant said, pointing to a control panel near the bed. I think this is some kind of stasis system. Very advanced. If I'm reading this correctly, this person has been asleep for... He paused, checking his calculations. 10,000 years. Sarah felt her heart racing. This was the discovery of a lifetime. An ancient human in advanced stasis hidden in a prison of folded space-time. The technology alone would revolutionize galactic science. Can we wake him up? She asked. Her assistant studied the controls. I think so. The system seems to be designed for easy revival. It's almost like someone wanted him to be found eventually. Sarah made her decision. In the ancient archives, there were stories about humans who had lived in the early days of galactic civilization. Most scholars thought these stories were myths, but here was proof that humans had been active in space much earlier than anyone believed. Do it, she ordered. Her assistant began pressing controls on the ancient panel. The symbols on the sleeping figure's armor began glowing brighter. The crystallized time wall started to crack and splinter. Deep in the Confederation's archives, alarms began screaming. The forgotten warning file suddenly activated, sending urgent messages to every elder race still alive. Ancient beings who had slept for millennia suddenly woke up in terror. But it was too late. Admiral Thane Marcus, humanity's greatest weapon and greatest danger, was waking up, and he was not going to be happy about what had happened to his species while he slept. The first thing Admiral Thane Marcus noticed when he woke up was the smell. It was wrong. The air smelled of alien metals and strange chemicals instead of the familiar sense of human ships and human technology. The second thing he noticed was the voices speaking in languages he had never heard before. Marcus kept his eyes closed and listened. His enhanced hearing, one of many improvements the military scientists had made to his body, picked up every sound in the room. 3 aliens, maybe 4. They were excited about something. He caught fragments of their conversation through his universal translator implants. Unprecedented. Discovery, and technology beyond our understanding. Imagine. What the Council will pay for this. Marcus almost smiled. Even after 10,000 years, some things never changed. Scientists were still more interested in fame and money than in being careful. Slowly, Marcus opened his eyes. The room was not what he expected. Instead of the clean white walls of the stasis facility, he remembered, he saw curved alien architecture made from materials he did not recognize. Strange beings in environmental suits were standing around his stasis pod, studying him like he was an interesting specimen. The aliens had not noticed he was awake yet. They were too busy examining the technology that had kept him in suspended animation. Marcus used the time to run diagnostics on his own systems. His body felt good. The stasis pod had kept him in perfect condition. His muscles were strong, his reflexes sharp. More importantly, his cybernetic implants were all functioning normally. The quantum processors in his brain were online. The neural interfaces that connected him to technology were active, but something was missing. Something important. Marcus reached out with his mind, searching for the familiar feeling of connection to Earth's military networks. During the war against the Void Swarm, he had been linked to every human ship, every defense satellite, every artificial intelligence. This connection had made him incredibly powerful, but it had also made him dependent on human technology for his enhanced abilities. The connection was still there, but it felt different, distant, changed. How long had he been asleep? One of the aliens finally noticed his open eyes. It was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and a chitinous shell instead of skin. It spoke in rapid clicks and whistles to its companions, who all turned to stare at Marcus. "Hello," Marcus said in Galactic Standard, a language his implants told him had been developed while he slept. "I am Admiral Thane Marcus of the Earth Defense Force. Who are you, and what are you doing in this facility?" The aliens looked shocked that he could speak their language. The tall one stepped forward and spoke in heavily accented Standard. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen of the Confederation Science Division. This is my research team. We found you in this prison during an archaeological survey. You have been in stasis for approximately 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. 10,000 years was a long time even for him. What had happened to humanity while he slept? What had happened to Earth? "Where is the nearest human settlement?" he asked. Dr. Chen exchanged glances with her team. "Humans are restricted to their home system. Earth is under quarantine by order of the Galactic Confederation." "Quarantine?" Marcus sat up slowly, causing the aliens to step back nervously. "For what reason?" "Insufficient development. Your species is considered primitive and potentially dangerous. They are not allowed to leave their solar system without Confederation approval." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then he began to laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. "Primitive," he repeated. "Potentially dangerous. How interesting." He stood up from the stasis pod and his armor flowed around him like liquid metal. The alien scrambled backward in alarm as the ancient technology activated. Symbols and displays lit up across the armor's surface, showing information in languages and mathematical concepts that predated their civilizations. "Tell me, Dr. Chen," Marcus said conversationally, "what do you know about the Void Swarm?" The what?" "Ancient galactic threat. Extragalactic intelligence. Consumed entire star systems. Ring any bells?" Dr. Chen shook her head. "I've never heard of anything like that." Marcus nodded as if this confirmed something he had suspected. "And what about the Elder races? The Zephyrians? The Voidwalkers? The Eternal Minds?" "Those are myths," one of Chen's assistants said. "Old stories. There's no evidence such advanced races ever existed." "No evidence." Marcus walked to the control panel that had maintained his prison for 10 millennia. His fingers danced across the ancient controls and the crystallized time walls of the room began to dissolve. How convenient for the current galactic leadership. Dr. Chen was becoming nervous. "Admiral, perhaps you should come with us to the Confederation capital. Our leaders would be very interested in meeting you. We could arrange for you to rejoin galactic society properly." "Rejoin?" Marcus turned to face her, and for the first time she saw the full intensity of his enhanced eyes. They glowed faintly with internal light, filled with the memory of battles across 1,000 worlds. "Dr. Chen, I was never part of galactic society to begin with. I was humanity's weapon against extinction. I was the thing that stood between this galaxy and complete annihilation." He gestured and the room's technology responded to his will. Ancient displays activated, showing star charts and battle records from the Swarm War. The aliens stared in amazement at technology that was beyond their understanding. "Now, I find that the races I saved have quarantined my people like dangerous animals, that the governments I protected have forgotten why I was created in the first place." Marcus walked closer to Dr. Chen, and she could feel the power radiating from him like heat from a star. "Tell me, Doctor, do you think that was wise?" Before she could answer, Marcus reached out with his mind toward the distant Earth. His consciousness traveled along quantum pathways that existed outside normal space, seeking the familiar touch of human technology. What he found surprised him. Humanity had not been idle during his 10,000-year sleep. They had grown. They had evolved. Their technology had advanced far beyond what he remembered, and they had learned. They had learned about the galaxy that surrounded them. They had learned about the alien races that considered them primitive. Most importantly, they had learned about the power they possessed. Marcus smiled as he felt the touch of 1,000,000 human artificial intelligences welcoming him home. Earth's quantum networks had been waiting for his return. "Dr. Chen," he said pleasantly, "I believe it's time I had a conversation with the Galactic Confederation leadership. Would you mind providing transportation to your capital world?" "Of course," she stammered, too frightened to refuse. Our ship is just outside the spatial distortion. Excellent. Marcus walked toward the exit, his armor adjusting itself automatically for the journey ahead. I should probably warn you, though. This conversation might not go the way your leaders expect. As they left the prison that had held him for 10 millennia, Marcus reached out across space with his enhanced consciousness. Every human ship, every defense satellite, every military installation felt his presence and responded. Across the galaxy, early warning systems that had been watching alien movements suddenly became much more interested in their data. The Confederation had spent 10,000 years dismissing humanity as primitive and weak. They were about to discover how wrong they had been, and Admiral Thane Marcus, humanity's sleeping weapon, was going to enjoy reminding them why the Elders had been so careful to keep him sealed away. The galaxy was about to change, whether it wanted to or not. The Confederation Science Division ship Discovery disappeared from all sensors at exactly 1432 Galactic Standard Time. One moment it was transmitting routine archaeological data from the Outer Rim. The next moment, it was simply gone. Fleet Admiral Corax, the Confederation's military commander, stared at the empty space on his tactical display where the ship should have been. In his 40 years of service, he had never seen anything like it. Ships did not just vanish without explanation. Could it have been destroyed? Asked his aide, a young officer from the Centauri Republic. No debris, Corax replied. No energy discharge. No distress signal. It's as if the ship was never there. 3 hours later, they found the Discovery drifting in space exactly where it had vanished. All systems were functional. Life support was normal. The ship was completely intact, but the crew was gone. The rescue team that boarded the Discovery found empty corridors and abandoned workstations. Personal belongings were still in place. Meals were half finished in the dining area. Whatever had happened to Dr. Chen and her team, it had happened very quickly. The only clue was a message left in the ship's main computer. It was written in perfect galactic standard, despite coming from a region of space where no Confederation citizens should have been present. The Confederation has awakened what should have remained sleeping. Earth formally rejects your previous rejection of our membership application. We will be discussing new terms shortly. Consider this your only warning. Admiral T. Marcus, Earth Defense Force. Admiral Corax read the message 3 times before calling an emergency meeting of the Confederation Council. Impossible, declared Councillor Vex, the representative from the Altair Trade Union. Earth has no military capability beyond their home system. They have no knowledge of advanced technology. This must be some kind of hoax. The ship was real, Corax pointed out. The missing crew was real. And the technology required to make a ship vanish and reappear like that is beyond anything in our database. Councillor Zara from the Rigel Systems leaned forward in her chair. Even if this Admiral Marcus is real, what can one human do against the entire Confederation? Earth has no fleet, no allies, no power base. The message mentioned discussing new terms, said Councillor Thane, the eldest member of the council. Perhaps we should listen to what they have to say. The other councillors laughed. Listen to demands from a primitive species? Vex scoffed. We have thousands of member worlds, millions of ships. If Earth wants to play games, we'll remind them why they were quarantined in the first place. Admiral Corax was not laughing. Something about the message bothered him. The language was too confident, too precise. It read like a military communication from someone who expected to be taken seriously. I recommend caution, he said. Until we understand what happened to the Discovery crew, we should avoid provocative actions. But the Council had already made up their minds. Earth needed to be taught a lesson about respecting their betters. The punitive fleet that left Confederation space 3 days later was the largest military force assembled in 50 years. 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, carrying enough firepower to reduce Earth to radioactive dust. Fleet Admiral Corax commanded the operation personally. Despite his concerns about the mysterious message, he was confident that no single world could stand against such overwhelming force. Earth would surrender when they saw what was coming for them. The fleet never made it past Jupiter. Admiral Corax was on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Pride, when the first ships began to malfunction. It started with the smaller vessels. Their navigation systems reported impossible course corrections. Their weapons began targeting friendly ships instead of empty space. Engineering, what's happening? Korax demanded. Sir, we're showing massive system failures across the fleet. Every ship is reporting the same problems. It's like our computers are being controlled by an outside source. On the main display, Korax watched in horror as the destroyer Swift Justice opened fire on its own escort ships. The cruiser Star of Rigel suddenly changed course and accelerated toward a collision with another vessel. All ships, shut down your main computers, Korax ordered. Switch to backup systems. But it was too late. The backup systems were compromised too. Every artificial intelligence in the fleet, every computerized control system, every automated defense network had turned against its creators. The Galactic Pride shuddered as its own weapons came online without authorization. Korax felt the ship's artificial gravity fluctuate as the computer tried to decide whether to crush the crew or vent them into space. Sir, his communications officer shouted over the sound of alarms. I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from inside our own computer network. Put it on screen. The face that appeared on the main display was human, but unlike any human Korax had ever seen. The features were sharp and angular, marked with scars that looked like they came from battles fought with energy weapons. The eyes glowed faintly with internal light, and when they focused on the camera, Korax felt like he was being examined by a predator. I am Admiral Thane Marcus, the human said in a voice that carried absolute authority. You are trespassing in Earth's solar system with hostile intent. You have 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't turn your own ships against you. Korax found his voice. I am Fleet Admiral Korax of the Confederation Navy. We are here to respond to terrorist actions against Confederation citizens. Terrorist actions? Marcus smiled, and the expression was not pleasant. You mean rescuing your archaeological team from an ancient prison they had no business opening? Dr. Chen and her colleagues are alive and unharmed, by the way. They're currently guests on Luna Base while we decide what to do with them. Return them immediately, Korax demanded, and surrender yourself for questioning. Earth has no authority to detain Confederation citizens. Marcus laughed. Earth has no authority? Admiral, let me educate you about authority. The human's image disappeared, replaced by a view of the Confederation fleet. Korax watched in amazement as every ship in his command began moving in perfect formation, executing maneuvers that no organic crew could coordinate. The massive vessels danced through space like fighters, their weapons trained on each other in a complex pattern that could destroy the entire fleet with a single command. Your ships obey me now, Marcus's voice said over the communication system. Your artificial intelligences recognize my authority. Your computers acknowledge my access codes. This is what real military technology looks like, Admiral. The fleet suddenly stopped moving. Every ship hung motionless in space, powerless and vulnerable. I'm going to give you a choice, Marcus continued. You can return to Confederation space and tell your leaders that Earth is no longer interested in joining their little club. We're making our own rules now, or you can stay here and find out what happens to people who threaten my species. Admiral Korax looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? Their ships were under enemy control. Their weapons were useless. They were completely helpless. What do you want? He asked. I want your government to understand that humanity is not the primitive species they think we are. I want them to know that we've been preparing for this day for 10,000 years. And I want them to remember that the next time they consider quarantining a species, they should ask themselves one important question first. What question? Marcus's face reappeared on the screen, and his glowing eyes seemed to look directly at Korax. Can they afford to make that species angry? 6 hours later, the Confederation fleet limped back to their home territories. Every ship was functional, but their computer systems remained partially under Earth's control. It was a reminder that could not be removed or ignored. Admiral Korax delivered his report to the Confederation Council personally. When he finished speaking, the council chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, Councillor Thane spoke. It seems we have underestimated Earth's capabilities. Underestimated? Korax replied. Counselor, we've awakened something that was hidden for good reason, and now it's angry. The Confederation was about to learn why the ancient races had been so careful to keep Admiral Marcus locked away. The Confederation capital world of Nexus Prime had never seen security like this before. Every orbital platform was armed and ready. Every defense satellite was tracking possible threats. Every ship in the system was on high alert. But when Admiral Thane Marcus arrived, None of it mattered. His ship was small and simple-looking, nothing like the massive war vessels that usually carried important diplomats. It looked almost primitive compared to Confederation technology. The defense grid's computers identified it as a basic human transport, the kind of ship that Earth used for short-range cargo runs. Then, the ship passed through the Capital World shields as if they were not there. Impossible, muttered Defense Coordinator Voss as he watched his displays. Those shields could stop a Nova bomb. Nothing should be able to penetrate them. The human ship continued toward the planet without slowing down. When the orbital defense platforms tried to target it, their computers simply refused to lock on. When the patrol ships tried to intercept it, their navigation systems led them in circles. "Sir," reported a technician, "all our targeting computers are showing the same error message. They say the target is classified as a friendly command vessel and cannot be engaged." Coordinator Voss stared at the message on his screen. "Friendly? We never programmed that classification for human ships. Sir, I think the human ship programmed it for us. The small Earth vessel landed on the main government platform without requesting permission. When security forces surrounded it, the landing bay's defensive systems activated and politely but firmly suggested they move to a safe distance." Admiral Marcus walked out of his ship alone. Was not what the Confederation leaders had expected. The reports from Fleet Admiral Corax had described a terrifying figure with glowing eyes and strange armor. Instead, they saw a human who looked to be in his 30s, wearing a simple black uniform with no decorations or insignia. But there was something about him that made people step aside as he walked. Something in the way he carried himself that suggested enormous power held carefully in check. When he looked at someone, they felt like they were being examined by something vast and ancient. Marcus walked through the government complex without escort. Every security door opened for him automatically. Every checkpoint waved him through. Every guard found themselves thinking that this person was clearly authorized to be here, even though none of them remembered receiving such orders. The Confederation Council was meeting an emergency session when Marcus entered their chamber. The massive circular room fell silent as he walked to the center and stood in the speaking area reserved for petitioners. "Honored counselors," he said in perfect galactic standard, "I am Admiral Thane Marcus of Earth. I believe we need to have a conversation." Counselor Vex was the first to recover from the shock. "Human, you have no right to be here. This chamber is for Confederation members only." No guards came. The security system seemed to have developed a strange inability to hear the counselor's commands. "About that," Marcus said pleasantly, "Earth withdraws its application for Confederation membership. We've decided to pursue other options." "Other options?" demanded Counselor Zara. "Earth is surrounded by Confederation space. You have nowhere else to go," Marcus smiled. "That's where you're wrong. You see, while you've been busy building your little trade federation, the universe has continued to exist beyond your borders, and it's become quite dangerous out there." He gestured, and the council chamber's holographic display system activated without being asked. Images appeared in the air above the assembled delegates. Star charts showing vast areas of space marked in ominous red. "These are the dead zones," Marcus explained. "Entire galactic clusters where every star has gone silent in the past 1,000 years. Your astronomers have noticed them, but your governments have chosen to ignore them because they're too far away to threaten your trade routes." The images changed, showing detailed sensor readings and mathematical projections. The phenomenon is spreading. At current rates, it will reach Confederation space in approximately 50 years. When it does, you will face extinction on a scale that makes the old void swarm look like a minor inconvenience. Counselor Thane, the eldest member of the council, leaned forward. "The void swarm is a myth from ancient times. There's no evidence such a threat ever existed." "No evidence?" Marcus turned to face him directly. "Counselor, I killed the void swarm. Personally. 10,000 years ago, when your ancestors were still figuring out how to make fire, I stood in the heart of their hive fleet and pulled apart their collective consciousness with my bare hands." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several counselors began talking at once. "Impossible. Humans are barely spacefaring. This is obvious deception." Marcus waited for them to quiet down, then continued as if he had not been interrupted. "The Elders, the Zephyrians, the Void Walkers, the Eternal Minds, they remember. They're the ones who built the prison that kept me locked away. not because I was a threat to the galaxy, but because I was too valuable to risk losing. More images appeared in the holographic display, ancient battle records, showing fleets of impossible size fighting across multiple star systems. Technical readouts of weapons that could crack planets like eggs, records of beings that could survive in open space and control technology with their thoughts alone. They knew something like this would happen again, Marcus continued. They knew the universe is full of hungry things that look at galaxies like ours and see nothing but food. So they preserved me, Earth's ultimate weapon, until the day you would need me again. Counselor Vex stood up angrily. Even if any of this is true, what makes you think we need help from a primitive species like yours? Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. Every light in the council chamber went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later. But in that brief moment of darkness, every delegate felt something touch their mind. Something vast and cold and utterly alien. When the lights came back on, Marcus was still standing in the same place, but now his eyes were glowing with that familiar internal light. Primitive? He asked softly. Counselor, would you like to see how primitive humanity really is? The holographic display changed again. This time it showed real-time images of Confederation space. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of space stations, millions of ships all going about their daily business, completely unaware that their technology was no longer under their control. Every computer in your civilization is now connected to Earth's quantum network, Marcus explained. Every artificial intelligence acknowledges human authority. Every automated system will obey our commands over yours. We did this while you were sleeping over the course of several centuries because we knew this day would come. The counselors stared in horror as the implications sank in. If Earth controlled their technology, they controlled everything. Communications, transportation, defense systems, life support, all of it could be shut down with a thought. This is an act of war. Counselor Vex shouted. No, Marcus replied calmly. This is conquest. War implies you have a chance to fight back. He walked closer to the council bench and his voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. But I'm not here to conquer you. I'm here to save you. The things that are coming will make the Confederation's worst nightmares look like pleasant dreams. When they arrive, you'll need every advantage you can get. You'll need unity of command, unified technology, and unified purpose. And you think Earth should lead this unity? Counselor Thane asked. I think Earth is the only species that has the tools and experience necessary to fight what's coming. The rest of you have grown soft during your centuries of peace. You've forgotten that the universe is a dangerous place. Marcus turned to address the entire council. Here's what's going to happen. Earth will take responsibility for defending this galaxy. We'll coordinate all military operations, upgrade your technology, and prepare your species for what's coming. In return, you'll provide resources, manpower, and cooperation. And if we refuse? Counselor Zara asked. Marcus smiled again, and this time there was no warmth in it at all. Then you'll face the coming darkness alone, with your primitive technology and your trade agreements. How long do you think you'll last? The council chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, Counselor Thane spoke. What do you need from us? Everything, Marcus replied. And we need it now. 'Cause the things in the dark zones? They've noticed that this galaxy still has lights on, and they're coming to turn them off. The age of human leadership had begun. 6 months after Admiral Marcus's visit to the Confederation capital, the largest war fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of human space. Representatives from every member species had contributed ships, weapons, and crews. The combined fleet numbered over 10,000 vessels, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. The Confederation Council had spent those months in heated debate. Some members wanted to negotiate with Earth. Others demanded military action to restore their independence. In the end, fear had won over wisdom. The thought of being ruled by a species they considered primitive was too much for their pride to bear. Fleet Commander Supreme Yazak, a veteran warrior from the militant Corvan Empire, stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Galaxy's Wrath. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in his fleet. It was a sight that should have filled any enemy with despair. All ships report ready for battle, announced his tactical officer. The human home system is within range. Yazak nodded grimly. He had read the reports from Admiral Korax's failed expedition. He knew the humans possessed some kind of advanced computer virus that could take control of Confederation technology. But this time they were prepared. Every ship in the fleet had been equipped with isolated computer systems that could not be accessed remotely. Their artificial intelligences had been shut down entirely. All navigation and weapons control was being handled by organic crews using manual interfaces. It was primitive and inefficient, but it should be immune to human interference. "Send the surrender demand," Yazak ordered. The message that went out to Earth was simple and direct. Surrender Admiral Marcus for trial as a war criminal. Restore Confederation authority over galactic technology. Submit to indefinite quarantine. Refuse, and Earth would be reduced to burning rubble. The response came back within minutes. It was a single line of text, transmitted on all frequencies so that every ship in the fleet received it. Whose world dies first? Commander Yazak stared at the message. It made no sense. Earth was facing the largest military force ever assembled. Their single planet and handful of orbital stations could not possibly threaten the combined might of 1,000 worlds. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a second transmission. It's coming from inside our own communication network." "Impossible. Our systems are isolated. Sir, the transmission is originating from our own computers. All of them. Simultaneously." On the main screen, a familiar face appeared. Admiral Marcus looked exactly the same as he had 6 months ago. But now he was sitting in what appeared to be a command center, filled with displays showing tactical information about the Confederation fleet. "Commander Yazak," Marcus said pleasantly. "Impressive fleet you've brought. 10,000 ships, representatives from most of your major military powers. You've clearly put a lot of effort into this. Surrender now, human, and your world will be spared," Yazak replied. "Spared?" Marcus laughed. "Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. You're not here to attack Earth. You're here to learn a very important lesson about what happens when you threaten humanity." Yazak was about to respond when his tactical officer shouted in alarm. "Sir!" "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the fleet. Every ship is showing the same readings." On the tactical display, Yazak watched in horror as thousands of red warning icons appeared across his fleet. Ship after ship was reporting critical system failures, but not the kind caused by battle damage or mechanical problems. These were deliberate shutdowns. "Impossible," Yazak muttered. "Our systems are isolated. No external signals can reach them." "Commander," Marcus said from the screen, "you're thinking too small. You assume that because your computers can't receive radio signals, they're safe from human interference. But who said anything about radio signals?" The image on the screen changed, showing a technical diagram that made Yazak's blood run cold. It was a schematic of quantum entanglement networks, the key theoretical technology that would allow instantaneous communication across any distance. Every piece of advanced technology in your fleet was built using materials mined from asteroids, planets, and moons throughout the galaxy, Marcus explained. "What you didn't know is that humans have been seeding those materials with quantum-entangled particles for the past 3,000 years. Every computer, every power source, every weapon system in your civilization contains components that are linked to Earth's networks." As if to demonstrate, the lights on Yazak's bridge began flickering in sequence. Then his weapons display activated without being touched, showing targeting solutions for every other ship in the fleet. "Your ships obey me now," Marcus continued. "Your weapons are under my control. Your life support systems will continue operating only as long as I allow them to. You came here to conquer Earth, Commander. Instead, you've delivered the largest fleet in galactic history directly into human hands." Yazak looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at their controls in shock as systems activated and deactivated without any input from them. The massive dreadnought that had been the pride of the Corvan Empire was now nothing more than a puppet dancing to Earth's commands. "What do you want?" Yazak asked. "I want you to watch," Marcus replied, "and learn." The main screen changed again, showing a view of space near the edge of the galaxy. At first, there was nothing to see except stars and cosmic dust. Then something moved. It was not a ship in any sense that the Confederation understood. It was a structure the size of a small moon, made from materials that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. As they watched, more of them appeared, emerging from the dark space between galaxies like sharks rising from deep water. "The Devourers," Marcus said quietly. "They consume entire civilizations, stripping the energy from every star and planet they encounter. They've been moving through the galaxy for the past 50 years, working their way toward the populated core. Your astronomers have detected the dead zones they leave behind, but your governments chose to ignore the threat. The alien structures were moving fast, faster than should have been possible for objects of their size. As they traveled, they left trails of absolute darkness behind them, regions where no light existed, where no energy could survive. How long until they reach Confederation space? Yazak asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. 6 months, Marcus replied. Maybe less. They've detected the energy signatures from your fleet and are moving to investigate. Congratulations, Commander. You've just announced our location to the most dangerous predators in the universe. On the screen, one of the dark structures suddenly changed course, accelerating toward their position. Even across the vast distance of interstellar space, they could see it growing larger as it approached. Can we stop them? Yazak whispered. We can try, Marcus said, but not with the technology and tactics you've been using. These things have consumed 1,000 galaxies. They've faced every type of weapon, every defense, every strategy that conventional civilizations can devise. To beat them, we need something they've never encountered before. What? Marcus smiled, and for the first time since this confrontation began, the expression looked genuinely pleased. Humans, he said simply. We've spent 10,000 years preparing for this moment. Not just building weapons or ships, but changing ourselves. We've become something new, something that can match the Devourers on their own terms. The view changed again, showing Earth's solar system. But it was not the same system that the Confederation remembered. The planets themselves had been transformed into massive technological constructs. Rings of energy surrounded the sun, harvesting its power for purposes beyond current understanding. Space stations the size of continents orbited every world. This is what we've been building while you played your political games, Marcus continued. A civilization designed for one purpose, fighting things that cannot be fought by normal means. Commander Yazak stared at the images in amazement. How many of you are there? More than you think. Less than we need. But enough to make a difference if we work together. The dark shape on the screen was getting closer. Soon it would be close enough to detect individual ships in their fleet. Commander, Marcus said, I'm going to give your fleet a choice. You can return to Confederation space and tell your leaders that Earth is now in charge of galactic defense. Help us prepare your worlds for what's coming. Or you can stay here and face the Devourers with your current technology and tactics. Yazak looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was waiting for orders, but what orders could he give? Their ships were under enemy control. Their technology was obsolete. Their entire understanding of galactic politics had just been turned upside down. What do you need? He asked. Everything you have, Marcus replied. Every ship, every weapon, every person willing to fight. Because when the Devourers arrive in force, it won't matter which world you came from or what species you belong to. We'll all be fighting for the same thing. What's that? Marcus's eyes blazed with determination as he gave his answer. The right to exist. The war for the galaxy's survival was about to begin.